Om. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Samasta Jana Kalyani Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidvaram Namah Shri Shankarananda Guru Padam Pujanvane Savila Samaha Moha Graha Grasaika Karmani. Okay, so we are in Panchadashi, chapter 3, and I had sent all of you the transliteration sheet, but I'm going to put it on the chat once again in case anybody's missing it, so that you can access it while we chanting. Okay, so we covered last time the first 4 verses, so let us chant those together. Guhahitam brahma yattat pañca-kośa vivekatah bodhum shakyam tatah kośa pañcakam pravivichyate dehadabhyantarah prāṇah prāṇādabhyantaram manah tatah karta tato bhokta guhaseyam parampara Pitra bhuktana jadviryat jato nenaiva vardhate deha sonamayo natma prakchordvam tadabhavatah purva janmanya sannetat janma sampadayet katham bhavi janmanya satkarma na bhunjiteha sanchitam. So we are in the 3rd chapter of Panchadashi, the 3rd prakarana, and it's called pañca-kośa vivekaha, means the differentiation of the 5 sheaths and the differentiation of the 5 sheaths from Atma. So in the first verse we saw last time that this Brahman is guha ahitam. It's actually ahitam. So this Brahman is guha ahitam, is lodged in the cave of the heart. And in this cave is the 5 sheaths. And so what the cave, the symbolic meaning of the cave is that underneath the cave, there's always something. Cave tells you that there's something inside, there's something hidden. And cave also tells us, usually they are dark, that when they have light or when they are lit, then we can really see what's in the cave. So these 5 sheaths are like caves because inner to them is Brahman. And Brahman is as though hidden by these 5 sheaths. And when we light up or when we gain the knowledge, then everything becomes clear. That Brahman becomes very evident, even if the 5 sheaths still persist. Because remember, the 5 sheaths are not the problem. The 5 sheaths, everybody has that. Even an enlightened master has 5 sheaths. But it's the identification with the 5 sheaths that is the issue. And so how he was explaining the 5 sheaths is one is inner to the other. So this word in verse 2, abhyantaraha, means that inner to the body. So we have the 5 sheaths, the body, or the annamaya-kośa, the prāṇas, the prāṇamaya-kośa, the mind, manomaya-kośa, the intellect, Vyāna-maya-kośa, and then the bliss sheath, annamaya-kośa. So internal to the food sheath is the vital air sheath. And then internal to that is the mind, internal to that is the intellect, internal to that is the bliss sheath. And why we say internal? Because it's subtler, and the subtler one governs the grosser one. So that's what the word internal means. And he says it's a lineage. These 5 sheaths are a lineage. They're connected, one going inside the other. So first what he does now in this text is he analyzes each sheath. So after stating what this text is about, what we're going to do, everything becomes very clear. He takes each sheath, he takes 1 or 2 verses per each sheath, and he explains what it is and why we are not that. So swarupa, what it is, and nishedha, why we are not that. The first sheath he took up was the annamaya-kośa. Annamaya literally means maya, modification of anna, food. And he said that this food sheath, this body actually is nothing but food. That's why it's called food sheath, because it's born of food, of the essence of the mother and father. It is sustained in food, and at the end it will go back into food alone. So this body is literally just a modification of food, nothing more than that. Everything that we're eating modified is the body. And that's why some people say you wear what you eat. And sometimes, as we see it, actually food has a direct effect on our body. So the more we eat, the more we grow big. The less we eat, we shrink. So there's a direct correlation between food and the body, which essentially means that food is the body. Without food, the body deteriorates. So if without A, B deteriorates, then A is nothing but B. So food is the body. And the reasoning he gave is that the body is not always there. It's not there before birth, and it's not there after death. And he makes this reasoning clear in verse number 4. So this, I'll just review this a little bit. In our philosophy, traditional Indian philosophy, almost all of them believe that the self is eternal. It's nitya. And so when this body is established to be temporary, then it is clear that it's not Atma, it's not the self. And how is a body being established as temporary? He gives a very different reason. He says that this body was not there before birth. So it was not there before birth. And clearly there's a cause of why this body is the way it is. It's not random. Body is not random. Body didn't just come in like that. We have a certain body because of our previous karmas. So that means that there was something before the body. It was not there before birth. There was something else that produced the type of body we have. And so it was not there before birth. And at the same time, we in the body, when we are living, we do a lot of actions in the body. And not all of those actions will reap results in this very lifetime. So when the body dies, there's still a bunch of results that have to be experienced. So there's still something after the body. So the body cannot be Atma because there is something before the body and there is something after the body. And those were the 2 defects that we saw. Akrita abhyagama dosha and krita vipranasha in Sanskrit. And what that essentially means is, if I believe that this body is just it, then what happens is I am just enjoying karma, enjoying the results of actions without having done anything, right? So there is an enjoyer, but there's no doer. And if I believe that there's nothing other than this body after death, there's no body, the body is it, there's nothing after death, then I'm doing all of these actions and there's no enjoyer, there's no one to reap the results after. So in this way, he says that a body cannot be the self. Because there was something before the body, clearly there is something after the body, and therefore the body is not the self. Now he goes on to the next sheath, and that's where we will start today. He goes to the prāṇamaya-kośa, and this is now in verse number 5. Purno dehe balam yachan, Purno dehe balam yachan, Akshanam yaf pravartakaha, Akshanam yaf pravartakaha, Vayuf prāṇamayo nāsau, Vayuf prāṇamayo nāsau, Atma Chaitanya Varjanat, Atma Chaitanya Varjanat, Purno Dehe Balam Yachan, Akshanam Yaf Pravartakaha, Vayuf prāṇamayo nāsau, Atma Chaitanya Varjanat. So what is this prāṇamaya-kośa, or this vital air sheath? He says, yaha, in the first line, yaha, that which purnaha dehe, it pervades the entire body. So purnaha here is, it pervades dehe, it pervades the body. Balam yachan, and it yachan means it giving balam, it gives strength to the entire body. Yaf pravartakaha, it enables akshanam, it enables means the eyes, the ears, a sense of smell, taste, touch. So it enables all of the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, it enables all of these functions. And vayuhu prāṇamayaha, it is literally just air. Vayu means air. It is a modification of air, and that's why it's called prāṇamaya. Na asau atma, this prāṇamaya is not atma. Why? Chaitanya varjanat, because it's devoid of consciousness. So the vital airs which pervade the body and give power and motion to the eyes and other senses constitute the vital sheath. It is not the self because it is devoid of consciousness. So first let's look at prāṇa. And we've seen this in other texts and also in Panchadashi in chapter 1. Prāṇa or prāṇamaya-kośa literally means the energy that governs the physiological functions of our body. So when we talk about prāṇa, it's actually the energy. It's that energy. And this prāṇa is nothing but a modification of air. Just like this body is a modification of food, all the food that we eat, it gets modified and then it turns into blood and fat and muscle and flesh, right? It gets processed into that. The same way, the air that we breathe, the air that we take in, it gets modified into energy. And so that's why when we can't breathe, there's a complete loss of energy in our whole system. Nothing functions when we can't breathe. In fact, the body dies. So whatever air we take in, a modification of that is prāṇamaya. And this air that we take in, it gets modified in 5 ways. So the energy governs it in 5 ways. And the first way is prāṇa, which means it governs the inhalation and exhalation. Inhalation and exhalation. So it governs that function. And that function, prāṇa, resides here in the heart. And secondly, it governs apāna. Apāna is a natural downward movement of releasing waste from our system. So the energy that governs that natural downward movement. So whether it's urine, whether it's feces, whatever it is that which helps us excrete, that is called apāna. And that resides, right? Its home is in the anus. Then we have Vyāna. Vyāna is that which governs our whole circulatory process. So that resides in our whole body, because it carries that breath into different parts of our body, so that that air is circulated. And we know that when air isn't circulated in a certain area, we get cramps and we feel pain. So that's a function of Vyāna. And then Udāna literally means that it is a reverse process. Means it is supposed to go down, but it comes up. So that energy which governs this reverse process, when it's supposed to go down, but it comes up, like sneezing. It's something that just we couldn't take down, it comes up, or coughing. So these kinds of things, or vomiting, are governed by that Udāna. And then Samāna, of course, is that which governs the digestion. Our whole body, it carries that nutrients and it oversees digestion. So it is housed in the stomach area, the nabi. Udāna is housed in the throat, kanta. And Vyāna, as I said, is housed in the entire body. So like this energy that governs all of these functions is called prāṇa, or the prāṇamaya-kośa. And sometimes in other texts, we'll also see the karamendriyas, the faculties of action, belonging in this sheath. So that is also there in this sheath. So it pervades, as you can see, the entire body. It's a modification of air. It gives us strength. When we breathe properly, it gives us strength. It gives strength to the entire body. Then it enables all of these functions. Now this prāṇa is so precious. It's a life-giving force. But why is it not the self? Why is it not the self? And very clearly here it says, Chaitanya varjanat. This is the reason. Because my experience of the self is I am a conscious being. I am able to think. I know. I am a knowing being. I'm a thinking being, conscious entity. But our breath or this type of energy cannot think. It cannot think. It cannot know. It cannot feel. So as much as we say that yes, it is there, and it is there even in deep sleep, our prāṇas function, and when the prāṇas leave, the body dies, all of that is true, but still the prāṇa is devoid of consciousness. And because it is devoid of consciousness, it is not me. So therefore, he says, now we have to transcend the prāṇamaya-kośa. And other reasons are also there. Which we have seen way back in Viveka-Chudamani, if we remember, that we can actually control the breath. We can stop the breath, right? So that which controls and that which is controlled, two different entities. And also in samadhi, some of these functions actually stop. So there is a point in time where breath actually can stop. So it is not always there. It is not always there. It is also changing. It is something that can be controlled, and it is devoid of consciousness. As we go through these sheaths, the idea of Vedanta is not that we read it and then we experiment after. It's not like science in that way, where you take two chemicals and then you know what the chemicals are and then study them, and after that you do all your experiments. There's a class where you have theory, and then there's a lab where you actually do the experiment. In Vedanta, the experimentation is done in class itself while we're listening. And that's why it says Shravanam Matrena Jnanam Labhate. In listening itself, knowledge happens. So this thing that we're speaking about, as we hear, we understand that actually, yes, I am not that prana. I am not that body, and I am not that prana. So this clarity dawns in Shravanam. And then further clarity, whatever doubts we have, we can resolve in Manana. But this is where the experimentation takes place, right? So now he's going to move to the next sheath. So as you can see, we're going inner and inner. We're coming to what we call the annamaya-kośa, or the mental sheath. So let us see verse number 6. Ahantam mamatam dehe, ahantam mamatam dehe, gehadau chakaroti yaha, gehadau chakaroti yaha, kamadhyavasthaya bhrantaha, kamadhyavasthaya bhrantaha, nasavatma manomayaha, nasavatma manomayaha, ahantam mamatam dehe, gehadau chakaroti yaha, kamadhyavasthaya bhrantaha, nasavatma manomayaha. So what is this annamaya-kośa? So yaha, the first line, yaha, ahantam mamatam karoti. So that which karoti does, ahantam, I-ness, mamatam, and my-ness, where dehe, in this body. That which does I-ness and my-ness in this body, gehadau, and in the house, etc. Kamadhyavasthaya bhrantaha, that is that which is deluded. That which is deluded, where avastha, by the states of kamadi, desire, etc. So that which is deluded or deludes in the states of desire, etc. Therefore, na asau atma, it is not atma. What is not atma? Manomayaha, this mental sheath. So that which gives rise to the ideas of I and mine with regard to one's body, house, and so forth is the mind sheath. Is not the self because it has desires and is moved by pleasure and pain, subject to delusion, and is fickle. So now one important thing to note here is that in some Vedantic texts, that which does the I is actually the intellectual sheath. But here he is dividing it in a different way. So, don't get confused. It's just that in different Vedantic texts, they divide it in different ways. So here, this is how he's dividing it, right? So let's not lose the main point. The main point is that this is not me. So here, now what he says, this is how he's classifying it. That which does the I and mine. So that which takes this body to be I, this mind to be I, the senses to be I, intellect to be I, that which does that I notion. Takes every single thing to be I. And that which takes everything to be mine. This body is mine. This mind is mine. This house is mine. So that which gets this or creates this feeling of I and mine. And we know that I and mine is the biggest delusion in the world. There's nothing really that we can call mine. There's nothing really here that we can call I. Even if we want to call this body mine, realistically, we did not create it. We did not create this body. And realistically, we are not sustaining it. It's really Mother Earth that's sustaining it. And at some point, it's going to go. So we cannot really call it mine. All of the things that we have, we cannot really call them mine. We cannot really call things I. And this mind, right? Now, it has these states of desires or different emotions. So different emotions take place in the mind, like desire, greed, compassion, love, joy, sorrow. So it's this seat of the emotions, the seat of emotions where different emotions arise. And so one time an angry emotion arises, right? And then it subsides. Another time, a happy emotion arises, and then it subsides. Another time, a tired emotion arises, and it subsides. Now, when all of these emotions are arising and subsiding, there's a constant presence of I, which is the self. So emotions are coming and going and coming and going, and they negate each other. So desire comes and then contentment negates it. Anger comes and then compassion negates it. Joy comes and then sorrow negates it. So not only are these emotions rising and falling, they're actually negating each other. They're negating each other. And amidst all of these emotions rising and falling and negating each other, I am that constant presence. I cannot be those emotions because I cannot be anger. I cannot be anger because if I was anger, I would be always angry. Imagine if we were always angry. How would that be, right? I cannot be that emotion of happiness because then I would always be happy. And really, realistically speaking, when we go to sleep, we are not happy, not sad. So I cannot be those emotions because if I were those emotions, I would be that emotion all the time. But in fact, those emotions actually, they come and then they go. They're just states. Kama dyavasthaya means they're just avasthas, they're just states. And even in their rising and falling, I am still that constant presence that's there. That's there. So therefore it says, I cannot be this mind. I can't be this mind because I am that constant presence amidst these emotions. Not only that, but there are many more reasons why we cannot be the mind. We saw also, this is way back in Tattva Bodha, that whatever is mine is not I, right? So if I say my house, that means it's not I. If I say my phone, it's not I, right? It's my is not I. If I say my body, it's not I. That when I call something mine, it is not I. So whatever I say to be mine, it's not I. And this mind also is constantly changing, subject to arrival, subject to departure. So it cannot be the self. Therefore, he says, we are not that annamaya-kośa. So very clearly now, he's given us, we are not the annamaya-kośa, we're not the body, because the body exists only for a certain time. It's not there before birth or after death. I'm not the prāṇas because although they are the energy that governs my entire body, they're devoid of consciousness. Chaitanya Varjanat. And I am not the mind because although I feel all of these emotions are there, that's true, but they come and they go, they keep changing, they negate each other, but yet I am always there. I am not a state of emotions, I am being itself. So I cannot be this. So some might say, are we good or are we bad? Because in the morning I had good thoughts and in the night I had bad thoughts. So am I good or am I bad with that which is beyond good and bad? So we're that which is actually free of the mind. Now he's going to go into the intellect. He's going to analyze the intellect and again explain how we are not the intellect. Right? So verse number 7 now. Lina supto vapurbodhe. Lina supto vapurbodhe. Vyāpnuyādanakhagraga. Vyāpnuyādanakhagraga. Chichayopetadhirnatma. Chichayopetadhirnatma. Vijñānamaya-shabda-bhāk. Vijñānamaya-shabda-bhāk. Līna supto vapurbodhe. Vyāpnuyādanakhagraga. Chichayopetadhirnatma. Vijñānamaya-shabda-bhāk. So what he says here is Lina supto. Lina means it gets dissolved. Gets dissolved where? Supto, in deep sleep. And vapuhu bodhe. And in waking, vyapnuyad anakagraga. That in that body, vyapnuyad, it pervades anakagraga until the tip of the nails. It pervades until the tip of the nails. Chichayo peta means chichaya upeta. It is endowed with the reflection of consciousness. And it is called dhihi. It is that intellect. Na atma. It is not atma. And what is the not atma? Vijñānamaya-shabda-bhāk. The Vyāna-kośa, that is not atma. So the intellect which has the reflection of pure consciousness, which pervades the whole body up to the tips of the fingers in waking state, but disappears in deep sleep, is known as intellect sheath. It is not the self because it too is changeable. So now what is he saying here? So first he says that this is dhihi, this is the intellect. Buddhihi, dhihi is the intellect. And what's very unique about the intellect is chichaya upeta. Chichaya upeta means it has the ability to hold the reflection of consciousness. because it's relatively steady. Intellect is nishchayatmika. Nishchayatmika means it's steady. Whereas the mind is the seat of emotions. Quite, our emotions keep on changing. That's why moods of the mind, they say moods of the mind. And the deity of the mind is the moon. The deity of the mind is the moon, and the moon has so many different phases. So like that, the mind is also different phases. And it's hard to see what state of mind people are in because it keeps changing. But the dhi is solid and steady. The deity of the intellect is the sun. Very solid, very steady. And in this intellect, the reflection of consciousness appears. So how do we explain this in Vedanta? An example is given where space is all pervading. Space is all pervading, and space is also formless. So it's all pervading and it's formless. And yet, even if it's all pervading and formless, in very still waters, the space can reflect. It can reflect. And how does space reflect? Because if you are, let us say, there's a lake and there are trees surrounding that lake, what the reflection we will see in the water, we will see the trees, but we will also see the space in between the trees. Yes? So like that, consciousness is all-pervading. Consciousness is formless, yet it is able to appear in that intellect because it is steady. It can hold the reflection of consciousness. And now the question is, how is this different from number 6, the mind? Because the mind, it said here, that which does the I and the mind, right? So that says, I am the body, I am the mind. That I, it says in verse number 6, is in the mind. That which does the mind, that's in the mind. Here, what we are talking about is that I thought, just that I thought. That I thought, which is the first thought which manifests. This is the annamaya-kośa. So that I thought which is verbalized, that I thought which is voiced, that I thought which is the reflection of consciousness, this is what we're talking about. And what happens with this I thought? Now, very interestingly, this I thought, in deep sleep, it dissolves. It dissolves. So this I, when I say I, this I, think about it as a sprout. So this I, in deep sleep, the sprout is becoming a seed or merging into the seed. Sprout is merging into the seed in deep sleep. And so it's completely dormant. Completely dormant. And then what happens in waking state? Vyāpnuyād. Now that seed is becoming a sprout, a plant, etc. It is pervading the entire body up to the tips of the nails. So that's what this I thought does. It is there, no doubt. It is there all the time. It is there, but it gets dormant. It gets dissolved in deep sleep, and then in waking state, it just pervades the entire body, our entire being. So in deep sleep, our sense of I is very minimal, very, very minimal. It's so dormant. It only is there when somebody calls our name, we're able to wake up. But in waking state, that sense of I is everywhere. So much so if somebody touches our hair, we're like, why are you touching me? Don't touch me. It pervades the whole entire being. And that is Vijnanamaya-kośa. Why is that not the self? What is the reason? Lina suptau. It's because it gets dissolved. It becomes dormant. It itself goes to sleep. It itself goes to sleep. That's why it's not the pure I. This I thought is something that's verbalized. This I thought is something that dissolves and then again rises. This I thought is something that is modifying, it's changing. But the pure I is there as it is. Remember, the pure I, when we talk about the pure I, it's not just that being I am, it is I am as I am. Huh? Not just I am, but I am as I am. It's pure being, absolutely changeless. It's not something that dissolves and then again rises up. It's pure being. That's always there as it is. And in fact, where that I thought dissolves, that I thought dissolves into that pure I. And that's why if we listen to Bhagavan Ramana Maharshiji's teachings, or if we read his teachings, something that we'll constantly find is, find the source of that I thought. Find the source of that I thought. So there is something deeper than the I thought. Because another question we can ask ourselves is, the I thought is dissolving. Where is it dissolving into? Has to dissolve somewhere, right? Where is it dissolving into? And if you remember in Chandogya Upanishad, it dissolves into the self. When we sleep, we attain Sat. We attain Sat. Very beautiful thing. So, Vijnanamaya-kośa cannot be I, because it dissolves. That sense of I thought dissolves. One great Mahatma, his name is Swami Akhandananda Maharajji. He said, if you do this sadhana, or if you do this practice, in 6 months, you will understand that everything is a dream. What is the sadhana? What is the practice? When we go to sleep, understand that from our feet till our anus, that is earth. It is earth. From in our urinary bladder, that area, that is water. Coming to our navel, that is fire. Then coming to the heart, that is air. So lungs, respiration. Coming to the throat, that is space. Coming to the face, from the throat to here, is the mind, because this is where the mind works. And then come to the tip of your head, which is that Paramatma itself. So when you go to sleep, dissolve earth into water, and dissolve that water into fire, dissolve that fire into air, dissolve that air into space, that space into the mind, and dissolve it into Paramatma, and go to sleep. And when you wake up, the first thing you understand is you are that Paramatma. And let that Paramatma come to the mind as that reflection of consciousness, then to that space in the throat, then to that heart air, then to the digestive fire, then to water, and then to earth. And you start your day. So always keep in mind that you are Paramatma. You are that pure Brahman. And if we sleep like this, and if we wake up like this, then we will realize our true nature. Because every time before we sleep, we are remembering who we are. And every time when we wake up, we are remembering who we are expressing. And he said that if we do this for 6 months, then this waking state will indeed seem like a whole entire dream. And we will be rooted in ourselves. So this is the Vyāna-maya-kośa, right? So now I'll just summarize the key points of what we've done, and then we will close and then discuss any questions there can be, right? So what we have seen today is 3 sheaths: prāṇamaya, manomaya, and vijñānamaya. And for prāṇamaya, he said that it is that energy which pervades the entire body, and it gives everything strength, and it enables our sense of seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, enables all of that. And it is just really a modification of air. And it governs the 5 Prāṇa, Apāna, Vyāna, Udāna, Samāna. And while prānas are always there, it is true, and it is also functioning in deep sleep, but it is devoid of consciousness. So it is not the self. And prānas also can stop in samadhi. Prānas also can be controlled. Therefore, they are dismissed as being that true self. It comes to the mind. The mind is the one that gives the feeling of I and mine in all of the things here. And that is the mind. And the mind is all of the emotions we have. Great. So we think we are our emotions. But remember, they rise and they fall. They negate each other. They change. And I am that constant presence that is there. And also, I am aware of these emotions, right? So therefore, I cannot be that mind, because those emotions are just a avastha, they are a state, but I am pure being. Then he comes to the intellect. The intellect, here the Vyāna-maya-kośa, he says, is the reflection of consciousness. That's where the reflection of consciousness is. And in deep sleep, it dissolves. And in waking state, that it pervades the whole body. What is it exactly? It is that I thought. But why can't we be the I thought? Because the I thought dissolves in deep sleep. It dissolves. And yet I know that I am always there as I am. I am that constant presence. I am the very source of that I thought. So with these 3, he has helped us to pass through those koshas. Next week, we're going to see now the difference between the intellectual and mental sheaths. He's going to classify them a little bit more for our clarity. Then he will go to the bliss sheath. All right? So we'll say the closing prayer, and then if there are any questions, we'll take that up. Om. 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 Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.